So for Stay Off Twitter this week, I just have one from Max Abrams, who's a professor. He specializes in counterterrorism stuff, and he just says about the MAGA new right guy, JD Vance, who is running for Senate in Ohio. He won the primary, and he won it by like emulating Trump. He's the infamous guy who wrote Hillbilly Elegy, but then turned far right and became like a full-on MAGA shithead, whatever. But he says about JD Vance's win in Ohio, he goes, JD Vance's win will only reinforce the alignment of foreign policy restrainers and the GOP, while the Democratic Party will become even more the party of war. And I don't, this is an interesting take. It's one that is not super like funny, and I don't even think it's actually true necessarily, but it's interesting food for thought. A misread here that I think he's making, which is common, is to think that the new right, MAGA right, are not militarists. To think that they're restrainers because they don't want to go after Putin or something, right? And that's not the case at all, right? We've talked about this a few weeks ago on the pod. The far right is super militarist, and their project of militarism is just like laser focused on yellow and brown people. So it's got Iran in their crosshairs, and it's got China in their crosshairs, and it's got marginal and minority communities in the US in their crosshairs, right? And the domestic and the international are connected, right? They don't want to reduce the defense budget. They don't want to take their eye off of China rivalry. They don't want to end the relationship between the military and the militarization of the police. They don't want to break that culture of bro culture of like the militarization of the police, right? They don't want to end the national security surveillance state. So like the new right is not, or the far right, whatever you want to fucking call them, they're not restrainers, you know? They're restrainers on the specific case of Putin and in the case of nation building. So like, you know, endless projects like Afghanistan. But that's it. They're willing to drop bombs on anybody, including their own people, Americans, you know? And the part that is like more true is that, so the GOP is not going to become the party of restraint. I don't see that happening. They're becoming militarists, even more so. The Democratic Party is the de facto party of war at this point because they've allowed themselves to be defined in relation to the Republicans as like the more, you know, moderate, competent version of Republicans on foreign policy in particular. And this is, of course, a losing hand. We've talked about this many times. But they've also, the Democrats, like a lot of neocons who were the Uberhawks who got us into the Iraq War, a lot of neocons have left the Republican Party and are now like praising and cheering Biden. And they're part of the group that consults on the Biden strategy documents and stuff. And like the neocons have started drifting into the Republican Party even more than they were before. And so like, I think the part that might be true here is that the Democratic Party is becoming more and more the party of war. But it's like the Terminator thing, no fate but what we make, you know? The Democratic Party actually has internal contestation. It depends on who the standard bearer of the party is, who's the leader at any given moment, right? I would like to think that 2024, if Biden doesn't run, there's going to be some like serious progressive energy for a different kind of Democratic Party. That's what I'm banking and hoping on, and that's what my existence is basically tied to at this point. So we'll see. Like right now, the Democrats do look like the party of war. I think he's right about that. But